Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Pokemon Legends Arceus. We're on Firespit Island this time, so we're actually gonna, get back at the three hooligans who keep getting in the way, even though they're not funny or intimidating. So why are they here?
I'm kind of vibing with Typhlosion's look.
You mean the stoner
on the
look?
bottom, right?
Well,
Yeah, the stoner look.
Typhlosion himself is just vibing. So
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
I haven't glanced at its gender icon. I'm assuming it's a him because the rarity stats on the starters are always skewed like that. But
Yeah, for some reason, every starter Pokemon, at least for, I don't know if they've changed this in more recent gens, but for a long time, starters were like 85% chance to be male and 15 chance to be female. And I'm not really sure why they did that. Maybe it's so that
they don't want people breeding the starters so
Well,
quickly, but people will just reset till they get a female one anyway. So
the other thing though was like in the very early gens, I think the female ones were determined to be female based on their stats.
Gen 2, yeah.
so
I
it was
forget.
like
Female, I believe, was like if you had less attack, you were female. Or
Yeah.
something. It was something sexist. I remember.
It was only for 2 generations, wasn't it? Or was there just one?
It's a very first edition Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it was just Gen 2. Starting with Gen 3, the stats and whatnot of every Pokemon game are basically running on all the same shit. It's the reason they did a lot of like internal tinkering in between Gen 2 and Gen 3, and that's part of why you couldn't get original cartridge Gen 1 Pokemon into Gen 3 Plus, whereas nowadays your Blaziken from your original Ruby cartridge can be brought all the way up to modern day Scarlet and Violet. And like if you do so, it'll say something like this Pokemon has traveled a long way or whatever in its ID page, which is a neat little touch.
Also, the notion that they don't want you breeding anything easily would be laughable, considering that Ditto just lets you.
Ditto. Yeah, I mean, there's also been like in the newer games, I think starting with Gen 7 or 6, they also shiny locked the starters, so you can't
Hard reset
shiny
them,
hunt
yeah.
for that, which also seems a little silly. I think I kind of get it for the legendaries in the Pokemon Company wants to make you do events to get the shiny versions kind of way. Not that it's a good reason, but it's at least an understandable one.
I still kind of find that kind of shitty.
it is.
I think
agree.
anything shiny should be achievable within the game itself without having to go to an event. Outside of like just legendaries in general, but a specific color of a legendary, I think that's stupid.
This would be a moment to mention that I just kind of don't like the concept of shinies in a general sense. I mean, sometimes I'll go after a specific shiny like Gardevoir because it's got a cool color scheme, but
well, that's it. You just described the entire reason why shinies still exist.
I don't like I don't like the general idea of shinies. I like the idea of color variants. I just wish they functioned in a different way.
I get it. I think we've had this discussion before. But
it's Pokemon. We probably have.
I
Yeah.
don't think
Five
we've
times.
had this specific discussion. Like, we've talked about shinies in other contexts, but I don't think we've talked about the validity or otherwise of the way shinies work in general. The fact that they're really rare.
So
there's
here's
only
the
one
thing I
per
like about
Pokemon.
shinies is that they have the kind of the mystique element of Pokemon in theory that was so appealing about the franchise, especially, in the late 90s, early 2000s before you could look everything up online. Like,
Yeah.
you play Gen 2 and you get to the Red Gyarados, right? And you're like, whoa, this thing's weird. And then you talk to somebody and they're like, oh, I also saw a pink Butterfree one time. And you're like, huh, okay. And then you're adventuring and you might never see anything like that. But then your friend is like, oh man, look at this, this weird haunter that I found one time. And you're like, whoa, what's that? And it kind of had that community element to it. Same thing with Pokerest, where when I was a kid, somebody's like, oh man, in my game, I got a virus on my Pokemon. And I'm like, yeah, sure you did, pal. But then Pokerest is an actual real thing.
Frank,
Yeah.
you're a virus.
Yeah,
Okay.
this was the same person who told me that if I talked to Luigi in Paper Mario 64 times in a row, he'd give you a gun. So I didn't believe him.
I'll say this. I dislike Pokerus way more than I dislike Shinies, just because, like, once you have it, I mean, once it exists, once it began to exist in the game, either you had it and you were, like, competitively optimal, or you didn't and you weren't.
Get in the box.
Well, the good thing about Pokerus is that it doesn't give your Pokemon an advantage at the end of everything. It just speeds up EV training process.
Well, yeah, but like,
so it cuts out some grinding, but you'd also, it's not like it's going to be that much less tedious to EV train all your Pokemon anyway. So, you know.
Is Pokerus still a
yeah,
thing?
it's still a thing.
Well, I mean, nowadays, like, at the beginning of Scarlet and Violet, you can just get all the EV training weights and do that, and just have max EVs within an hour.
Yeah,
So-
that is something that I appreciate about the newer games, is that making your Pokemon competitively viable is just an option that doesn't take 30,000 hours in order to.
You can also,
do.
like even without the EVs, as long as you know what Pokemon to go after for what EVs, you can just dump every Pokemon that doesn't need that EV in the box before engaging, and, you know, very slowly chip away at your EVs that way.
I also appreciate the fact that the games are now much more transparent about the fact that these things exist. Like in Gen 1, 2, 3, 4, I think even 5, there's like some NPCs who will say, oh yeah, each Pokemon's different.
You can also just check them in the stats screen with a button press.
Yeah, but there's like, if you're a kid just working off the games itself, or maybe a strategy guide, you can't really check to see if you have the optimal EV spread, what your IV spread for each Pokemon. Like, even saying these things, I sound like such a fucking nerd.
The other thing, though, is that, like, in the same town that you start in, that you can buy all the training weights, and you can also buy the drug items that reduce your EVs. So,
I never knew as a kid what, like, carbos and proteins and whatever. But you don't really need them because they don't increase your EVs that much, and they're better off just to sell because they sell for almost as much as a nugget.
There are also items that you can buy to decrease your EVs so that you can fix your Pokemon if you screw them up. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, in Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah. Technically, I think all this stuff was introduced last generation, or maybe the generation before.
I'm not entirely sure.
I know it all existed in Sword and Shield anyway.
Anyway, the point is, I'm glad that we live in a world now where you can understand this, see what you're doing, and feasibly make your team competitively viable without needing to, like, hack your game or look it up online. I appreciate that a lot.
The unfortunate problem with being able to do that, though, is that it kind of underlines the fact that the EV system failed utterly at what it was designed to do, which was to give everyone's Pokemon a unique feeling that was, like, tailored to them. But at the very least, it fixed the main issue that I had with it, is that EVs and IVs kind of go against the idea of Pokemon is about, like, forming a bond with these creatures that you travel with, where in earlier generations, the strictly optimal thing to do would be to create a eugenics factory to breed the perfect Pokemon and then put them on, like, a strict
Players will, at some point or another, optimize the fun out of every game.
Yeah, but it's just like the speech in Gen 2 where Agatha's like, strong Pokemon, weak Pokemon, that's only people. You should just try to use your favorites. And I'm like, that's what Pokemon should be, but objectively, it is not.
You know, you kind of see the same thing happening even with games where, like, the general point of the game's design is to not do that kind of thing. Like Baldur's Gate 3, for instance. I've just been waiting to go on a BG3 tangent for reals.
I was going to say, you can tell when this was recorded.
So, like, you don't want to know the easiest way to make money? Okay, sell all your shit to the nearest merchant, save your game, then pick their pocket and just steal all your money back, and then repeat.
What the fuck?
And then repeat the process.
And this person doesn't realize that you've sold them the same Magic +3 Fire Ring over and over and over again?
And I was stupid enough to keep buying
it. Takes forever to save scum this, especially early in the game. But
because if they catch you and you roll bad,
also because your proficiency rolls are going to be low, so you're rolling bad more often than not. But, like, you know, you could just go back to camp and their money will refill, and then come back and like they seriously need to patch that money refilling thing out because it seriously breaks the game's economy.
I think it's just an inevitability at that point.
I appreciate that you can do that because that's something a dickbag RPG team would do.
There is exactly one situation in my own playthrough where I would have done that to a merchant, and that's this point where I find myself in his Zentaran basement, and I have the option to buy like a painter that he's enslaved off of him to free him. I would have totally picked his pocket to get that money and then bought the slave with his own money. But like that's a legitimate roleplay reason to try that sort of thing. I'm talking about people who will camp their thief like right behind the merchant and save scum until they succeed the pickpocket, which is probably going to take about 10 reloads. And it's like, okay, if you're going to sit here save scumming, why aren't you just going out and finding some vendor trash to sell? You know, by the time you get back, his money will have refilled anyway. It seems more fun to me than just sitting there reloading the game over and over until you get the.
Well, you're wrong.
Yeah, there's but easy isn't always. It's not about doing it.
You could be
like,
going
the fun
off and
way.
having some grand adventure that takes less time than succeeding this pickpocket roll, and instead you chose to sit here reloading your
Big
save.
number.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even about the fastest way to do it. It's about the easiest way to do it. People will work very hard to be lazy.
But it's not even easier than that dungeon you could have looted. You know, there's a lot of money in the game if you just go out and find it. But like, yeah, that's the example that comes to my mind. Anyway, speaking of adventures, we have a glowing
the Super
fucking
Saiyan
Arcanine.
Growlithe, yeah.
Arcanine. This is Arcanine.
What the fuck is this?
Super Saiyan Arcanine.
How did it evolve
No.
without a Firestone?
No, this is Supersonic 2, guys.
Because it doesn't need it.
No, this
So
is Super
technically,
Werehog
The ground
2.
is a stone, right? And the ground is on fire. So technically,
And I have the personality of a stone.
I just had the image in my head of Sonic the Werehog going super. And
God
I'm
help
surprised
us.
they didn't try to do that in Unleashed, actually.
well, it
In
makes
either
sense.
version.
It makes sense. The Werehog was born of the bits of Dark Gaia that were stuck in Sonic, so when you go to fight Dark Gaia, that stuff goes back to Dark Gaia.
Yeah, but then you could also have like Dark Guy is trying to control Sonic, and then he uses the Chaos Emeralds to free himself or some shit.
That
It-
would have been
it-
neat, yeah.
I mean, it also just sounds like an excuse to make. I mean, would
On
the
the other
Werehog
hand-
look cool?
I mean, it's an excuse to get rid of the Werehog for the next
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
But I think
On the other
ultimately
hand,
it.
we also got Megazord Temple monster thing, so you know.
Sonic Unleashed.
You know, I
did
think
have a
I think I
fun
would have taken the
boss.
Super Werehog idea.
Well, to be fair, in the Wii version, that final boss was pretty boss.
It's okay, yeah. Like it's better than
Rock'em
the
Sock'em
version,
robots with the giant temple thing.
I forgot. I've only ever played the Wii version. I forgot people don't actually like the final boss in HD Unleashed.
The HD weirdly got the worst final boss. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I haven't gone back and played Unleashed on Wii in a long time, and I doubt it holds up as well as I remember. And I only remember it being okay.
It's actually like quite interesting in that it's like a unique style of Sonic gameplay that has never come back since. But you have to be in a different headspace when playing it than you do when playing Sonic Unleashed Day or Sonic Generations or whatever. But once you get in the zone, it's quite satisfying.
Yeah, I remember it being fun. I just also remember, and it looks nice for the Wii too.
Just
I-
don't run into any walls, or do. It's hilarious. Sonic just pancakes against the wall and then flops back down, and you lose like a full 5 seconds to it.
Which is why I fucking hate it.
But at the same time, I love
it's
it.
really annoying.
At the same time, I love it. It's hilarious.
It has a lot of personality. It's just like, also, fuck this.
They tried to do that in Beta Sonic 2, but like didn't because it broke the flow too much.
Oh, I would even argue, like, okay, no, it's not as bad in what they originally had because you would just bounce backwards,
Yeah.
right? You didn't like come to you did come to a dead stop for like a split second because there was like a frame where Sonic was like, oh, that sucked.
Yeah, I guess they decided it broke the flow too much.
Ryan, remind me, can you dodge roll into the lava?
No,
Okay.
they're invisible walls.
Okay.
Oh, that's... Well, I suppose they have to keep this game, like, above a certain lethality threshold as far as what the player character can do, otherwise it would cease to be child-friendly.
And I say these children need a good kick in the ass.
Oh, I've never actually had a Titan Pokemon fight the bosses.
Well, I mean, even when you lose to the fucking Mafia in Gen 1, John,
they let you walk
like,
back to the hospital, yeah.
no, you just black out and end up at the hospital. So I suppose these... And you only lose half your money like a regular trainer battle. So I suppose the Mafia is just really polite in the Pokemon universe. They don't even
They're
steal
also
your...
pretty dumb.
They don't even steal your Pokemon, which you think they would. And that would have actually been like a really interesting fail state, like to lose the Pokemon team that you had on you and to have to go rescue them from the same trainer that you lost
You
them
know
to.
what? I'm surprised that they have not done that in. I guess it's a failsafe in case like you only have one Pokemon, but
yeah, that would be. Well, I mean, they could just leave you one Pokemon and put you in a situation where you need to catch more, but. The main reason I think they didn't do that is probably because A, it was a fucking 8-bit game, so there's a limit to how much you can code in that sort of environment. There's a limit to how much you can hold in memory and stuff, and also the idea might not have occurred to them because they were making a basic ass RPG.
It's a really neat idea, and I think that if one of the spin-offs at the very least hasn't tried it, they should. You know,
the thing is, that kind of fail state is the sort of thing like the Western RPGs would have tried. Like, there's a situation in Ultima 6 where you can get captured by the guards and literally watch your party members get killed one by one unless you acquiesce to giving the bad guy information they want from you. Like,
sorry, I love that Ryan knew that he had won, so he let the Arcanine fucking body slam him.
Yeah, here's just have this one.
So like, I know I'm just waiting until now to get into this, but like I'm actually like absorbing what I'm seeing here on the screen. But boss battles in this game are just you chucking balls infinitely at something and you like dodging harm.
Yeah,
like,
they're not
essentially.
balls; they're like bags of medicine or some shit.
Right, balls.
Yeah.
Bag bomb.
They're basically on the Pokemon Snap.
It doesn't really matter what it is.
Bag bomb, I think.
You say bag
bomb.
Yeah.
Bag bomb.
Okay. I thought they said bat bombs. It's like you need to
bag
relax.
bomb, as I understand it, is a real thing in the real world, but I am pretty sure you don't apply it by throwing it at someone's face.
Let's find out.
I mean, unless you're just really angry at the patient.
I think it's an interesting way to try to do boss battles, because in Pokemon, boss battles have always been trainers with a big team of strong Pokemon, which has made boss fights against like individual wild Pokemon pretty difficult to make. Like, the only reason why legendary fights are interesting in the first place is because you're trying to catch them, so you can't just kill them. If you've ever tried to go to a legendary and just kill them, the fight's over in 20 seconds and it's not fun. And it's trying to survive while trying to catch them that makes it an interesting gameplay experience.
I like how whenever we have these time-traveling isekai stories, everyone in isekai land dresses up like an anime character and not at all like they would in that time period. Case in point, I'm pretty sure, like in ancient Japan, no one would have been walking around in boy shorts.
On the
I don't know, I wasn't-
footsteps
I
of
don't
an
know, I
active
wasn't there.
volcano where your legs would burn.
Yeah, that
to
too. I mean,
ash.
there is that. Also, like, I don't know if ancient Japan had t-shirts either.
Well, that's actually one of the things that's like you come down with the t-shirt because you're from modern times and everyone.
No, I'm talking about the guy standing directly next to this chick.
Yeah. No, because we've introduced the concept of the t-shirt.
Oh yeah, he's got like
to
a
these
hoodie on. Yeah.
He's got like a yukata hoodie. And it's just like, okay. And then this lady looks like she traveled to the future for her shoes and her necklace and her hairband and her wristbands and her shorts.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's just from the
And
future.
everything except her belt. She's pulling that look off better than we did at the beginning of the game, I'm going to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've honestly been very disappointed with how Pokemon has handled the fashion elements of the games. over the past couple of gens. Because in Gen 6, where you first got to customize your character, there were so many fashion options and styling options.
Yeah, because
That
France.
was awesome.
It's
Yeah, 'cause it's France.
but only for the girls.
Yeah.
And
like ever since, in every game since, there's no option to have a boy character with long hair. There's barely ever any clothes or anything. So, yeah.
And then in Scarlet and Violet, it said, nope, you get four versions of school uniform, and that's all you get.
To be fair, in Scarlet and Violet, you did get every hairstyle regardless of gender. But
Yeah, but there's not a one that looks good for, like, I want to make me look like myself, and I haven't been able to do that in any Pokemon game.
Yeah, they didn't include like any really long hairstyles that look good either way.
Yeah.
Well, I really
Just do what I did and embrace nothingness.
Yeah, that's easy for you to say, John. You have nothingness for hair.
That's the joke.
I really resent the uniform thing, but I did end up working around it to create a really fabulous looking protagonist. So, swings and roundabouts.